on the property. This is the form I'm going to fill out. I'm going to send to the seller. So just like the sessions I do with the group, I'm going to be very exam focused. So if there's stuff I'm skipping it for good reason. You don't need it for the exam. Using this in real life, anyways, is very different than the course teaches you. But I'm going to give you guys exact kind of what's going to come up in the exam. All right, so first page, if we look at this over here, we got a few different things. So let me just highlight this. All right, so we got buyer's name, we got the seller's name, we have the address, super simple stuff, nothing crazy so far. And then we have the purchase price and we have the deposit. So for the purchase price, if you're on course 3, course 4, this should be easy. This should be quick review. Obviously, we're going to put the price somewhere over here. So we're going to say, 500,000. Okay, I'm going to offer 500K for the property. Okay, and then obviously you're going to write in words over here. 500,000. That's your offer price for the APS. Now, if I'm a buyer and I give this offer to the seller has a few options. Accept, reject, counter. If they accept it, great. If they reject it, that's tough. If they counter is very important. If they counter it, they have to, 1, cross this out. 2, they're going to write their new number on top, maybe 550. And 3, they're going to initial it. So if I'm the seller, I'm going to put my initials. Okay. That is the counter offer process for anything, anywhere on the agreement. Whether it's the purchase price, whether it's a deposit, whether it's a clause, a condition, a word, a sentence, it doesn't matter. You cross it out, you write what you want, and then you initial. When I send this back to the buyer is going to look at this. The buyer, if they want to accept it, they're going to put their initials. So maybe their initials is A. That's the buyer's initials. Okay, that means they're happy with the change, they're okay with it, they're going to continue. Okay. Now, obviously, keep in mind when we're doing these counter offers, we got to make sure we change the words. So 550. So we're going to add 50 over here. And it's kind of the same thing. We're going to initial. And then we send this over to the buyer. If they accept it, they're going to put their initials. So counter offer, very, very simple. Now, counter offer versus amendment. That is very different. A lot of people get confused. So a counter offer is when we are going back and forth. But the key part about the counter offer, and you guys can write this down if you have something to write down with. The counter offer is when we are making offers before it is accepted. Sorry, not even making offers, making changes before the offer is accepted. Okay, so I have this offer, I sent it to somebody, they don't like it, they send it back, I don't like it, I send it back. We can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. The amendment is making changes, any change. It could be the price, it could be the deposit, it could be a condition, a clause, anything, any change. But the key thing is after the offer is accepted. Okay, the buyer gave me the offer, I accepted it. Now, if anybody needs to make a change, we have a contract, and to change the contract, we need an amendment. And the amendment is a separate form. Okay, so keep that in mind. You will get tested on that. That is the difference. Now, briefly to show you guys the amendment, kind of what it looks like. So the amendment looks something like this over here. Okay, so it's really just a blank form, right? We've got a blank form here, and we're inserting whatever kind of things we want to delete. Maybe I'm deleting the purchase price, the home inspection clause. I copy paste the clause here. I copy paste it again, but I'm going to change the thing I want to change. So if I want a few more days for my home inspection, I'm going to change the date in that paragraph and I'll put that here. Okay, and that is it. That's pretty simple. You do that, you sign the back of the page, and this stuff we're going to go through later. But that is it. That is the amendment. Okay, so only when we already have a contract and we're trying to change something. Okay, back to this. For our deposits, two things: herewith and upon acceptance. Herewith is when we are giving our deposit with the offer. So deposit with the offer. I'm a buyer. I like the property. I'm giving my initial offer and I'm giving the deposit with that offer, even though it hasn't been accepted yet. Upon acceptance, just like it sounds like, deposit once the offer is accepted. Okay, I'm giving my offer. When the seller accepts my offer, then I'm going to send over the deposit later, usually within 24 hours. Okay, so deposit with the offer, deposit once the offer has been accepted. All right, and this applies for everything. This applies for your condo APS. This applies for your commercial APS. So for the C3 people, that's your condo APS. For the C4 people, that's your commercial APS. It's the exact same thing. Okay. And then, of course, initials of both buyers and sellers at the bottom of the agreement. Okay. Now, there's a lot of clauses here. These are all called pre-printed clauses. Now, in the usually when we have a lot more time in the sessions, I go through everything. I'm going to try and pick out the most important ones so you guys can take something valuable away from this today. So the most important naturally is going to be the first two: irrevocability and completion date. Again, after course 2, this should be kind of ingrained. You should know this by heart. Irrevocability is going to be your deadline that you're giving the other person to accept, consider, reject your offer. Meaning, if I am a buyer putting an offer on a property, I'm going to put buyer over here. Why? Because this offer shall be irrevocable by me. I'm giving the seller the deadline. I'm saying this is my deadline for you to give me an answer. Then I put any kind of time, any kind of date. Usually we're going to be 48 to 72 hours after offer acceptance. Or sorry, after offer date. So if I'm giving the seller my offer, I'm going to give them 2 to 3 days to decide. Meaning, maybe let's say the 31st day of May. Okay, 2024. That's my offer. Now, when we do the counter offer, the seller countered me for $550. The seller's also going to have to change some of the stuff here. One, they got to change buyer to seller. Why? Because now the seller is going to give me the deadline to accept, reject, or counter their counter offer. Right? So seller came, said, hey, here's $550. I'm going to set the deadline, so I'm going to put seller here. And then I might change the date as well. So I might actually put let's say the 3rd of June. So 3rd of June. So I can put that over here. Okay. And then of course, they're going to initial all of these. So if I'm the seller, I would put something like my initials everywhere. So you do that for all the changes. Okay. So again, your deadline for the other person to consider, accept, reject your offer. Okay. Completion date. Completion date is the closing date, the global closing date. Now, for my C2 people, the closing date is going to be 60 to 90 days after acceptance. For my C4 people, so for commercial, my closing date is going to be months or years, depending on how big the deal is. Okay. If you're selling a, I don't know, let's say a 5-plex, like you got a small building with 5 units, maybe a few months. If you're selling a plaza, a large office building with many, many units, that can take a year or a few years. Okay. Now for the people on C4, you guys are going to get a lot more situation-based questions. So this stuff that I'm teaching you is the foundation. This is the basics. But for you guys, you have to go a step farther. You have to think, how does this apply to different situations? Because their questions are going to be, you have a buyer, he wants an office unit. This is his situation. What should you advise him? And that's where these stuff are going to come in. For the C2 people, a little bit easier for you guys. You guys are just going to have pretty straightforward questions. And for the C1 people, this is stuff that you're going to see very soon, or you're going to see glimpses of it in your C1. So if you get this stuff now, it's going to be a lot easier for you going into the beast, which is C2. Okay. So let's keep it rolling. I'm going to skip over a few of these stuff here. They're either very easy or you're not going to need them. I'm going to cover one thing here, and then I'm going to hop to the last page just because of the time. So title search. A lot of people think they know the title search, but there's a lot of parts to the title search. And there's a reason why it's very, very important and why you get tested on it on every single exam. The title search is the buyer's opportunity to make sure the title, the property they're buying, as being registered in their name, the title, is clear. Clear meaning there's nothing that can affect their use or enjoyment of the property. So the term they like to use is use or enjoyment. When I say that, I mean, when we look at the title, on the title, if there is an issue, it's going to be registered there. We're going to see it. So we're going to have stuff like liens, stuff like easements, stuff like encroachments. Okay. We're going to have stuff like all of those things that you guys saw in the course one, right? Adverse possession and, the government escheat and all these other stuff. That's going to be registered on the title. Now for liens, for those of you guys that don't know what a lien is, a lien is when I owe somebody money and they put a warning on my property. The warning can either be, hey, pay me back. You can do whatever you want with the property, but you do have to pay me back by this deadline. In that case, sometimes if I'm the seller, I might just sell the property. And then that lien can get transferred over to the buyer's name. And the buyer has to pay my lien. In other cases, other lenders who you owe money to will say, hey, you owe me money. I'm freezing your property. You can't do anything with it. And you got to pay me by this deadline. The second scenario has no effect on the buyer. We don't care about that. The first scenario, though, which usually happens with property taxes, you don't pay your property taxes, you can still sell your property, and the buyer has now this lien of a few hundred, a few thousand they have to pay. That's why we do this. Now, we find this lien. What are we going to do after that? Well, title search lets us, one, make an objection. Okay. I'm the buyer. I can say, hey, seller, I found the lien. I'm not going to buy it until you fix it. Two, once I make the objection, now the seller can fix the issue. They can pay off the lien. They can fix whatever issue I brought up. If they fix it, great, we can continue. If seller does not fix the issue, then we have two options here. Okay, option A is I'm the buyer, I continue with the deal. I say forget about it, let's just continue, I'm happy with it. B is I cancel the deal. And I can walk away. That's the important part. There's no other way to get out of a contract other than the title search and you make an objection once you sign the contract. There's no other way. Okay, so that's why this is very, very important. Now, a last point before I move on here, requisition date is your title search deadline. That's the deadline you have to do the title search. And that's about 15 to 30 days before closing. Okay. All right. So that is a title search. Now, again, there's a lot of other stuff. I'm going to kind of zoom over to this last page here. I want to break down a few more things here. So on our last page, this is where the signatures happen. So for this, we're going to have something here called spousal consent. Spousal consent, I mean, should be simple, but you have to know it for all the courses. If I'm married and I am living in a property, which is my primary residence, my spouse has equal rights to the property. If I want to sell it, I need their signature. Even if they're on the title or if they're not, I need their signature. If I am a family law couple, which means I actually am in common law, which means I'm just living with them. I'm not actually married with this person. You do not need spousal consent, and whoever's on the title can do whatever they want. Okay. So for this spousal consent, it's only for our, what we call matrimonial homes. That's when you need spousal consent, which just means you're actually married. Okay. And then confirmation of acceptance, that's where we're going to have the signature. Only one person signing. That's going to be your seller. That's going to be your buyer, whoever's accepting the contract. If I'm a buyer and I give an offer to the seller, they're the ones who's going to be accepting that. Okay. All right. Now, to touch on this last part here, acknowledgement. For those of you that don't know, it's going to be where we're trying to get copies. We want copies of the contract, and we're going to forward this to our lawyers. Okay. So seller, buyer, they're both going to sign their signs. Okay, now there's a lot more stuff to look at. So of course, review this later, and I'll send you guys a recording. But I'm going to show you guys a few more things about the APS, which is relevant to all the other courses as well. So obviously, we have our amendment. We also have the notice of fulfillment. So for those of you guys that are on C2, C3, C4, you need to know the condition precedent, subsequent, true condition precedent. This is where the notice of fulfillment comes in. So it's a bit much to dive into right now, but condition precedent, if we're trying to fulfill something like a home inspection, this is the form we use. It's always helpful to get the form so you can get a visual and you'll never forget it after you see it. So it's super simple. Copy paste the clause and we sign at the bottom. Same thing for waivers. Waivers also go with condition precedents, right? And these are clauses that we can fulfill. We can also waive it. Waive meaning forget about the condition I put in, I'm still going to buy your house. Okay. For my C3 people, we got the condo APS, or sorry, this is the commercial APS. So this is C4 people. Not much changes. Just looking at this first page, you guys can see, for those of you on C4, is very, very similar. For C4 people, your test will come from the additional clauses at the back, the custom clauses. So really study office, retail, industrial, farm properties, and really study the differences and situation questions. What additional custom clauses would I have to add? That's where your questions are going to come from. And for the C3 people, the condo APS, very similar, very identical. Just looking at the first page, you can see very identical, but there is six different clauses. And they're pretty easy to identify if you just go through it. But you're going to have stuff about the status certificate, the board, approvals, meetings, a bunch of other stuff. But there's only 6 differences. Okay. All right. Is everybody still with me? Did that help? Did you guys learn something? Yes. So having just done the APS, having just kind of given you guys a few of the at least high performing tips that I've seen with the students that I've done. Do you guys feel like that was at all helpful, a little bit helpful? Yeah, you guys can put yes or no. I mean, your no is completely fine. Okay, we're getting a yes. Okay. And okay, awesome. And do you guys feel like that saved you at least some of the hours that it took me to kind of put into it and really learn kind of what doesn't work and also what does. Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. For those of you guys that like this and you guys want more stuff, if you guys want more stuff, some free stuff for you guys. Some of you guys may already have this, which is great, but you guys can grab my notes. You can grab my website. You can grab the Facebook group. You guys can grab the checklist for all the courses. The C1 checklist is in the group for free, so check that out. The course 2, course 3, you can grab for free as well. You just go to that link. You guys can take a picture if you want that. So again, it breaks down every single module and all the concepts that are going to be on the exam. And I'm telling you, this is not like randomness. This is stuff that I literally use. I give to all my students. So yeah, that is the link, the bit.ly. So I can kind of put it here for you guys. So bit.ly. This is kind of the link. That's for course 2. Course 3 is a similar thing. All right, let me put that one more time. Oh, yeah, you guys get the point. You guys can take a picture. Okay, and for the serious students, for anybody that found this helpful, that wants something more similar to this, then for you guys might be interested in the group sessions. That's only if you guys really want to go in depth and you're really committed to getting this done in a short amount of time. For that, that's where we do kind of 5 classes in total. That's where it's pretty much similar to what we did today. We're going through the exact exam tested concepts. And this is based on, my last 2 years doing this over hundreds of students, thousands of hours. And yeah, I'm going to give you guys practice questions that's been tested again and again and again. And, we have a good pass rate of like 85% or something. Okay, so again, there's already free stuff. You guys don't need to join. This is only if you really, really want to get this done in a short amount of time. And yeah, I've done this with a few people. This was like Dinah. I think she was like a few months ago. She finished course 2. I think she got like a 91%. So that was really good. There was also Amit. Amit was a mortgage agent. He was doing these things side by side. It was a bit hard for him. So I was able to help him out from like C2, I think. C2, we did C3, we did C4. We were able to get through everything. And I think he got licensed. When was this? I think last year, maybe December, I think. So this is just 2 of the people. And of course, we have all these fun, friendly faces. Some of you guys are going to be in here today. So shout out to whoever has been part of the groups. This is a small portion, but we have a lot of people that have joined them. Okay, let me take some questions because I don't know if this meeting is going to end. So hopefully I can kind of get the questions out.